All right, welcome back for the second set of directions for our 2-point perspective. So the materials that you'll need again today are your ruler, an eraser, a pencil, and a pencil sharpener if you need it, along with your drawing that we started the other day. All right, so on my paper, I have my diamond that I created using all of my tick marks. So I have 2 tick marks, one on the left-hand side and one on the right-hand side. And those tick marks are halfway between the top and the bottom of my paper. So they fall at about 4.5 inches. And then I also have a tick mark at the top and the bottom of my paper, falling halfway between the left and the right-hand side. So these tick marks are at 6 inches. And then I connected those going across my paper to create that large plus sign. From the bottom, going up, we drew a tick mark measured at 1.5 inches from the bottom. And we also did the same thing coming down from the top. So this distance is also 1.5 inches. After creating those tick marks, we lined up the points on the left-hand side and the right-hand side to those tick marks using a straight line to give us that diamond shape. I am going to label the 2 dots on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. I'm going to call the one on the left-hand side point 1 and the one on the right-hand side point 2, just to make things a little bit easier. My next step is going to be to create the sidewalk. The sidewalk, I don't recommend going past 1 inch, otherwise it just gets a little bit too big. So I'm gonna grab my ruler and I'm going to measure up from this bottom corner of my diamond 1 inch. So I'm going to make sure that my inch mark is at that tick mark and my ruler is lined up with my vertical line. And at the end of my ruler, I'm going to make a new tick mark. So the distance between here and the bottom of the diamond is 1 inch. My next step is going to be to line up this tick mark with point 1 and point 2 to create another straight line on either side. Anytime you line up 2 tick marks, you want to make sure that they're lined up before you draw. That way you don't have to erase your line and try again. Otherwise you'll have a wobbly line. So again, my points are lined up. I can draw a straight line with my ruler. And you want to make sure you can draw as lightly as you can. That way, if you have to erase, your line erases completely. All right, so after I have my sidewalk, the next step is going to be to create the corner store. The corner store is going to happen in this space right here. So you'll see on mine, this right here, this line of the post, is actually my vertical line. And I'm going to show you how I did that right now. So again, this vertical line is going to be the corner of my store. So the first thing we're going to do is to decide how tall we want that corner store to be. You don't want the roof of your corner store to be on the bottom half of your horizon line. You want it to be on the top half. I am going to have my corner store be about this tall. You don't have to measure anything for the height of your buildings if you don't want to. You also don't need to measure for the thickness of the store, which I'll show you in just a minute. So this is going to be the top of my building. So just like I did with the sidewalk down below, I'm going to connect the top corner of my corner store to points 2 and to point 1. Again, make sure they're completely lined up and connect them with a straight line. So right here, this is the new top of my corner store. I want you to leave in the original diamond lines for future use. Our next step is going to be to create the thickness of our store. I am going to have one side of my store be a little bit thicker than the other one. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna have the left side be a little bit more wide than the right-hand side. So I made 2 tick marks. The next thing you're going to do is you are going to take your ruler, you are going to line that up with your tick mark going vertical. Now this part is kind of tricky because you do need to kind of eyeball things because you want your ruler to be as parallel as you can get it to be with your vertical line. So these should be running along with each other like railroad tracks. You don't want them to intersect. So once your ruler and your vertical line are as parallel as you can get them, and you're lined up with the tick mark that is going to be the thickness of your store, you're going to draw from the sidewalk up to the roof line. So notice I didn't extend all the way up. I stopped at the roof line of my store. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the right-hand side. I'm gonna bring my ruler over. I'm going to eyeball it and have it be as parallel as I can get it. I'm going to draw that line going up to the new corner of my store. So right here is the store that I have on the corner of my block. I am going to create another store right next door on the right-hand side. I am going to have this store be a little bit taller than my corner store. And to do that, what I'm going to do is I am going to take this line on the right-hand side and I'm going to extend it. And I want this to be a tall building, so I'm gonna go beyond the height of my original diamond line from here to point 2. So this is going to be a taller building. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to line up the top of my line, which is going to become the side of my store. I'm gonna connect this top of my line to point number 2 to create the roof line. We are gonna erase some of these lines in just a minute. It looks a little hectic right now, but just hang tight. I'm going to have this store be a little bit narrow. So I'm gonna have it be to about there. You can either mark the thickness of your store at the roof line, or you can mark it down on the sidewalk. Either way is fine. It's not gonna make a big difference if you do either way. So I'm gonna line up my ruler again with my tick mark to show me the thickness of the store. And once again, I'm gonna line up my ruler so it's parallel to the vertical line. And I'm going to connect from the sidewalk up to the top of my building. Here's where I can erase some of my lines. This is the side of my store, this is the top of my store, and this is the other side of my store. I'm going to keep the horizon line because I still need that, but I'm going to erase this inside line from the corner or from the roof of my corner store because I don't need that one. And I'm going to erase inside the top of my new building. Again, you want to keep your horizon line. That one is important. We will erase it at the very end, but you want to keep it for now. Now, on the left-hand side of my building, I'm going to make this storefront a little bit shorter, not taller like I did with this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a tick mark around here. Seems like a good height. Now I'm going to connect from here to point number 1. I'm going to connect those 2 lines. So here is now the roof line of my new building. And actually what I can do is I can erase this line. That was my indicator for my corner store, just to get a line out of there. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create the thickness for this building right here. I'm gonna make it about there. I'm gonna line that up. Sometimes when your ruler starts to get farther away from this vertical line, what I like to do is I like to, instead of making my ruler parallel to the vertical line, I'll make my ruler parallel to the side of the paper. There's less space that your eye has to travel, so it's more likely that your ruler will be parallel with the edge of your paper than it would be with the vertical line. So again, the farther you get from this vertical line, the more you want to align your ruler with the edge of the paper. And again, I draw my line only to the top of my new roof. After I draw that roof, I can erase the rest of the line that I don't need anymore. So these are the starts of the building roof lines. I can also erase this line right here because this line is what gave me the height of my corner store, and I don't actually need that line anymore. I'm gonna erase it all the way to 0.2. As we keep going with our stores, you'll start to kind of notice the city block taking shape, because we are eventually going to end up with something similar to this. So if I take my ruler, I can actually show you all of the lines for the tops of the stores line up to 0.1 on the left-hand side, and all the tops of the stores on the right-hand side line up to 0.2. They all lead